Miracles We Have Seen, Chapter 10. Miracle of Returning from the Dead. His name was Tata Manuel Mamani. He was a very old Aymara Indian who lived in the Yungas region of Bolivia near Coroico. Manuel Mamani was a staunch believer and attended almost every service of our church. He had suffered persecution for his faith in prior years. Now he was old, around 70, very old for that culture. The average lifespan for the typical male living in the Yungas was about 50 years. Manuel was a direct descendant of the Inca Indians, who once ruled Bolivia, Peru, and other Andean regions. Tata Manuel spoke mostly in the Aymara dialect, plus a smattering of Spanish. He was our friend. Manuel lived in a little adobe hut, that's mud brick, thatched with straw. The floor of his one-room yutaja, or house, was dirt. The furniture consisted primarily of pallets for sleeping, a charcoal burner for cooking, a small table, and a few pots, pans, and other utensils. One day I received an urgent call to go to Senor Mamani's little hovel, located amidst a plot of coffee and citrus trees. Tata Mamani died early this morning, the messenger cried, in that curious admixture of Inca and Spanish languages. We want you to come and help us prepare for this funeral. I knew the ancient customs of that isolated region of Bolivia. Since there were no funeral homes, the corpse must be buried that day because of the tropical heat. I walked as fast as I could. As I approached Senor Manuel's little hut with its dirt floor and thatched roof, I was surprised that no sounds of wailing or mourning could be heard. I entered the open door. I could not believe my eyes. Manuel was alive. The family was rejoicing. He died. Now he is alive, they exclaimed. He's alive, they chorused as I was eager to hear the story. Manuel Mamani motioned me over to his bed. I died, Top Pastor, he greeted me with excitement in his voice. I could see that Manuel had undergone a powerful spiritual experience, and I couldn't wait to hear his story. Pastor, Manuel continued, I died. I have been sick for so long. I was happy when I left my body and rose out of the pallet and into the air. I went right through the roof of my house, and I could see my body still lying in the bed, he exclaimed. My heart raised in anticipation as I sensed that something supernatural had happened to this old faithful friend, Manuel. Manuel had never attended school or traveled out of that remote region of Bolivia. Yet he was describing a journey through space. His eyes were alive with excitement. I could see my family as they came to my bedside. I could hear them as they wept over me. I heard them discussing my funeral as I hovered above their heads. Then he spoke with urgency. Tata Pastor, I went high into the sky. I was so happy. I felt no pain. I was young, alive, and happy, he said. I never wanted to go back to my old utaja, to my old sick body. ¿Y qué pasó? I queried. What happened next? Tata Manuel Mamani looked at me for a moment with a faraway gaze, then continued. I finally came to a wonderful place where the caminos, that's roads, were of oro, that's gold. I knew he was describing the golden roads of heaven. Then he said, "This place was so full of beautiful things. I had never seen such things in my life. It was wonderful." Manuel spoke with great fervor. Then a man came and met me. He was so kind, and he smiled at me and said, "Manuel, you must go back home." "No, Senor. Please don't make me go back down there. I have had such pain and suffering. Please, let me stay here." Then Manuel added with sadness in his voice, "I felt myself coming back down to my old body and my old house. I came back through the techo, that's the roof, into my body." "What else did the man tell you, Manuel?" I persisted. "The man dressed in white told me that I should come back and tell my family to give their hearts to Jesus and be saved," he said. "And that is what I have done," he added fervently. My heart was so full of questions and joy. I knew that Tata Mamani had experienced an out-of-body encounter with heavenly beings. Then Manuel asked me a wonderful question. "Tata Pastor, do you think I saw Jesus?" I looked down at the aged and infirm saint of God and answered his question with total confidence. "Yes, Manuel, I'm certain you saw Jesus." Then he made one final statement. It was perhaps the last thing he ever said to me. "Pastor, I don't want to stay here anymore. I want to go back to that wonderful place. I want to go home. I want to be free from my old body and this pain." I looked down at the aged, wrinkled, bedridden saint of God. He had suffered so much for Jesus in earlier times. He and his brother Lorenzo and Andre had been whipped for their faith. Sometimes they were dragged behind horses. He was so tired and racked with pain. I held his hand and prayed for him as his entire family joined together. They all promised to meet their husband and papa in heaven. I thanked God that I had been privileged to hear that heavenly story. A few days later, I preached at Manuel Mamani's funeral. There were very few tears. There was a lot of rejoicing. I told the crowd of relatives and friends about Manuel's experience and where he had gone as we stood in that mountainside cemetery. We sang songs of praise and worship in Spanish and Aymara. We sang "When the Roll is Called Up Yonder." Then we all promised to meet each other one day in the land that Tata Mamani had discovered. I look forward to that reunion when we will all meet our precious Bolivian brothers and sisters on the streets of Oro. Will you join us? Have you ever prayed for a heavenly vision? The promise in Acts 2:17 is, "It shall come to pass in the last days, saith God, that I will pour out my Spirit upon all flesh. Your sons and daughters will prophesy. Your young men will see visions. Your old men shall dream dreams." The Word declares, "Where there is no vision, the people perish." Proverbs 29, verse 18. And as I read this story from Papa Jack Terry, he has made that crossing. He has been reunited with Manuel. Oh, and with his wife, and with so many other dear loved ones who have gone on before him. So, will you too give your heart to Jesus so that you can join Papa Jack in that land where there is no more death, no more crying, no more, no more. Amen.